Welcome, history enthusiasts and story lovers, to the Blade of History, your journey into one of the most turbulent, tragic, and thrilling periods in Chinese history. In the last episode, we witnessed the fury of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, a desperate cry from a suffering peasantry that shook the very foundations of the Eastern Han Dynasty. We saw how Emperor Ling, cocooned in the luxury of his palace and swayed by the whispers of powerful eunuchs, made a fateful decision to decentralize military authority, empowering regional governors and generals to crush the insurgency. We left off with a precarious peace, a revolution quelled, but an empire fractured, its saviors now emerging warlords who held new military and political strength. The stage was set for a dramatic shift in power. Today we delve into the heart of the imperial capital, Luoyang, a city shimmering with outward grandeur but seething with internal decay. We'll witness the final fateful days of an emperor lost to indulgence, the desperate power plays that erupt in his wake, and the bloody chaos that will pave the way for a tyrant. The year is 189 AD. Even after surviving the rebellion, Emperor Ling continued to show little interest in state affairs, choosing instead to abdicate his responsibilities to the eunuch faction that dominated his court. Instead, he indulged in women and luxurious comforts, retreating further into his protected world of personal pleasure and extravagance. So deep was his trust in his eunuchs that he was known to openly declare, "Regular attendant Zhang Rang is my father. Regular attendant Zhao Zhong is my mother," a stark admission of his reliance on these powerful chamberlains. His trust was catastrophically misplaced. The eunuchs, led by the notorious Ten Attendants, exploited their proximity to the emperor to amass enormous fortunes. They engaged in rampant corruption, openly selling offices and titles to the highest bidder, filling positions of power with incompetent loyalists, and imposing crushing taxes on the peasantry to fund their lavish lifestyles and the emperor's whims. There's a telling anecdote from this time. Emperor Ling once expressed a desire to visit the Yong'anhu platform, a high viewing gallery in the palace from which he might survey the capital. The eunuchs, many of whom had constructed opulent mansions that would have been clearly visible, grew alarmed. They feared that if the emperor saw the scale of their wealth, even he might become suspicious. So they concocted a warning. "Your Majesty," they advised, "you shouldn't put yourself on higher ground. If you do so, the people will scatter." Such was their influence that the emperor, ever superstitious and detached, believed them and seldom again ascended any high towers, remaining blind to the rot festering just beyond his palace walls. His reign saw the imperial gardens expanded with funds extorted from officials and new taxes levied for unnecessary construction projects, further alienating both the scholar official class and common people. Then, in the 5th month of 189 AD, Emperor Ling grew ill and died. He left the empire teetering and crucially without a clearly designated heir, igniting a succession crisis that would drench the capital in blood. For years, Emperor Ling had struggled with the decision of his succession. He had 2 surviving sons, born to different mothers, each with powerful advocates. The elder Liu Bian was the son of the reigning Empress He. This made him, by convention, the natural successor. Empress He was an ambitious woman, and her family, particularly her half-brother, He Jin, had risen to prominence alongside her, having been appointed general-in-chief of the imperial armies when the Yellow Turban Rebellion first erupted. The younger son was Liu Shi, the prince of Chenliu, born to the late consort Wang. Consort Wang had been a favoured concubine of Emperor Ling. However, years earlier, she fell victim to Empress He's jealousy, who had her poisoned to death. The young Liu Shi was then raised by Emperor Ling's own mother, the Dowager Empress Dong. Empress Dowager Dong favoured her grandson, Liu Shi, for the throne and deeply distrusted Empress He and her kin. In his heart, Emperor Ling believed the younger son, Liu Xie, was far more suited to rule. He saw his elder son, Liu Bian, as frivolous, weak, and lacking the gravitas an emperor needed. But to bypass Liu Bian in favor of Liu Xi would be to declare war on the powerful He clan, a confrontation the ailing emperor was unwilling to force. With Emperor Ling gone, the court fractured along these lines. Jian Shuo, head eunuch and one of Emperor Ling's most trusted confidants, wanted to enthrone the younger Liu Xie, who he believed the Ten Attendants could control. Jian Shuo commanded the army of the Western Garden, a standing army that was established just a year before the emperor's death. Scholars believe that Emperor Ling established the army as a counterweight to the growing power of He Jin and the He family. Jian Shuo made the first move. His plan was simple and brutal: lure General-in-Chief He Jin into the palace, assassinate him, thereby weakening the He clan's power, and then declare Liu Xi the new emperor. The summons was sent. When He Jin arrived, however, he was warned of the plot and feigned illness to quickly return to his camp, narrowly evading the assassination attempt. Now fully aware of the eunuch's intentions, He Jin moved with uncharacteristic speed. Before Jian Shuo and his faction could regroup, He Jin stormed into the palace, seized control of the court, garnered political support to decisively settle the succession. On May 15, 189 AD, the 13-year-old Liu Bian was placed upon the dragon throne. He would be known to history as Emperor Shao. With her son now the emperor, Empress He became Empress Dowager He, and He Jin was formally appointed Regent Marshal, the supreme head of the government. Alongside the Empress Dowager He now stood at the apex of the Han Empire. Despite this success, He Jin knew his position was anything but secure. The Ten Attendants, who had thrived under Emperor Ling, feared the new administration would mean their downfall and plotted against him. During the summer months, He Jin and his followers confronted the eunuch faction in court politics. As a strategic measure, He Jin had Jian Shuo arrested for his leadership in an assassination plot and had him executed. He then seized command of the army of the Western Garden, further amassing military and political power. Still, the eunuchs remained a powerful enemy. Now led by Zhang Rang, they continued to plot their own survival. It was then that He Jin's close confidant, the influential general Yuan Shao, pressed him to finish the job. Representing a powerful bloc of scholar officials and influential aristocrats that saw the eunuchs as the architects of the dynasty's decay. In the autumn of 189, Yuan Shao urged He Jin to use his newfound authority to eradicate the eunuchs, to cleanse the court once and for all, and to consolidate power. As a charismatic politician from one of the empire's most prestigious families, Yuan Shao pressed He Jin. The eunuchs have flouted the will of heaven and brought suffering to the land. General, the mandate to act is yours. Seize this moment, and you will be hailed as a hero of the Han. Empress Dowager He immediately rejected the plan. Beyond the bribes her family enjoyed from the eunuchs, she always remembered that she owed her station in life to the eunuchs, who first brought her into Emperor Ling's imperial harem in her youth and protected her over the years of her reign. She urged caution and was wary of alienating the eunuchs who still held sway over parts of the palace guard and had intricate networks of influence. Torn between the calls for decisive action and his own innate caution, He Jin made a fateful decision, one heavily influenced by Yuan Shao. He sent invitations to several provincial warlords to bring their troops near Luoyang to publicly call for the execution of the eunuchs, aiming to pressure Empress Dowager He into acting against them. Among these warlords, one who will feature prominently in our saga was Dong Zhuo, a general who rose to considerable power and influence during the Yellow Turban Rebellion. As whispers of He intentions spread through the palace, the eunuchs knew they had to act fast. If these external armies arrived, their fate was sealed. They opted for a desperate, bloody gambit. In the 8th month of 189 AD, they forged an edict in Empress Dowager He's name, summoning He to the inner palace for an urgent consultation. He supporters, including a young, astute officer named Cao Cao, pleaded with him not to go. "It is surely a trap, General," Cao Cao is said to have warned. "Why meet them on their own ground within the palace where their influence is strongest?" Yuan Shao again counselled He that he should order an attack on the eunuchs rather than enter on his own. But He perhaps trusting that his half-sister's authority would shield him, or perhaps simply underestimating the eunuch's desperation, ignored the warnings. On September 22, 1890, He entered the palace to answer the summons. Without an escort, he never walked out. The eunuchs, lying in wait, ambushed and assassinated He and tossed his severed head over the palace wall to his horrified troops and supporters assembled outside. The murder of the regent marshal was the spark that ignited a conflagration. Yuan Shao, incandescent with rage and perhaps a degree of culpability for the escalating crisis, did not wait for any further authority. He mobilized his forces and incited the imperial guards and the city's populace. The palace was set on fire and a horrific slaughter ensued. Soldiers stormed the palace, hunting down and killing any eunuch they could find. In the terrifying chaos, many beardless men were mistaken for eunuchs and cut down before they could plead for their lives. Other young men were forced to show their genitals to avoid being mistaken for eunuchs and killed. Over 2,000 people perished in the purge. The intricate webs of power the eunuchs had woven over decades were torn apart in a single night of fire and blood. The leading eunuchs, including Zhang Rang, found themselves cornered. They seized Emperor Shao and the Prince of Chenliu as hostages and fled the burning, blood-soaked capital under the cover of darkness, desperately trying to reach the perceived safety of the Yellow River. And here, fate, or perhaps sheer opportunism, played its hand. Dong Zhuo, already on the move from the northwest with his formidable army in response to He invitation, was not far from the capital. As his forces approached Luoyang, they encountered the desperate, fleeing party of eunuchs with their imperial hostages. Sensing the end was near, Zhang Rang turned to Emperor Shao and said, "We're going to be destroyed, and chaos will break out in the empire. Your Majesty, please take care of yourself." He then threw himself into the river and drowned. The remaining eunuchs, their power utterly broken and their escape cut off, were either killed by Dong Zhuo's soldiers or, in their despair, also drowned themselves. Thus, it was Dong Zhuo, the provincial warlord, who rescued the terrified young royals. He found them by the riverside, lost and bewildered amidst the remnants of the slaughtered eunuch faction. It is said that Dong Zhuo found the young Emperor Shao timid and anxious, while his younger brother remained poised and clear-headed. In fact, the young prince ordered Dong Zhuo to escort them back to the palace, a command the general was happy to oblige. With the emperor and the prince effectively in his custody, Dong Zhuo was no longer merely responding to a summons from a now-dead regent marshal. He was escorting the Son of Heaven back to his capital. He arrived not as a subordinate, but as a savior, with the full weight of his army behind him. The gates of Luoyang opened to him, a city reeling from a coup, a counter-coup, and a massacre. The government was in tatters. The most powerful figures at court were dead. And into this vacuum strode Dong Zhuo, a man of immense military power, unrefined ambition, and a chilling disregard for the established order. The capital, having just purged itself of one set of masters, now found itself facing another, far more dangerous presence. The wolf was not just at the gates, he was inside, with the lambs firmly under his control. Dong Zhuo stands at the threshold of absolute power in a Luoyang still stained with blood and fear. He has the emperor, he has the army, and the old order lies shattered. What will this frontier general do with such power? How will the remnants of the Han court and the ambitious governors still watching from the provinces react to this new brutal force in their midst? Join us next time on the Blade of History as Dong Zhuo tightens his grip on Luoyang and unleashes a reign of terror that unites the fractured warlords of China in a desperate coalition against him. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps us out. And subscribe for more deep dives into the epic history of ancient China. New episodes every week.